not the vibe I was going for, but at least I'm right. So the goal for today is to write 1,000 words. I want to try and be that writer that sits in a cafe, people watching, drinking coffee or matcha, getting inspired and doing lots of writing. I got 0 words down, but it's fine. I prepared a backup of going to the library. So let's go. Hello, how are you? Yeah, not bad, not bad. So, I've been writing and I have reached over 4,000 words, which I'm very proud of. But I would like to reach that big 5,000 word mark. So, the goal for today is to write 1,000 words, which may not sound like a crazy stretch goal because it's not. But for me, it is because I've yet to write 1,000 words in one day. So, today is the day. So the plan is to go to a cafe and maybe a library. I know I just did a whole video doing this room up, and it's absolutely lovely in here. But I have spent the whole week in here. I need to get out. I want to try and be that writer that sits in a cafe, people watching, drinking coffee or matcha, getting inspired and doing lots of writing. I do see a potential issue with my anxiety not fully being on board with this. Something about going inward in a public space doesn't seem like the best idea. So, if that doesn't work, we could go to the beautiful John Rylands Library in central Manchester. I think that would inspire anybody to write. So that's a plan B if the cafe aesthetic doesn't work. I want to keep challenging myself and I need to get out of the flat. So let's do a quick get ready with me and I'll tell you how the writing's been going. I think it's really interesting how the story is coming to me because I've heard about how characters come alive for writers, and that's happening for me. Less so for the other characters, but for the main character, which is great. It's funny because I feel like I'm discovering her story as I'm writing it. Like I'm not putting her through this or creating obstacles for her. Rather, I'm simply bearing witness to her story, which is so fascinating to me. And I think that does a couple of things. On the one hand, it adds more pressure because as she becomes more real, I want to do justice to her and her story. But on the other hand, it creates a bit of distance, a bit of detachment, where I'm just translating or not necessarily translate, accounting or writing it out whilst it's being told to me. Almost like writing out an audiobook that's in my head. Like I'm just writing down what she's telling me. Does that make sense? I don't know. It goes in unexpected directions. My inciting incident was already supposed to have happened. Nowhere to be seen right now. I'm fully avoiding writing a proper scene with her mum, which is kind of interesting. She's just lurking in the background. And 2 side characters are friends, which I didn't know until I wrote it. But oh my god, does it hurt my brain. But I'm finding it really interesting and I'm enjoying it so much. Okay, I have packed my iPad, mini keyboard for the iPad, notebook, pen, cuddly toy, kitchen sink, just in case. And I think I'm ready to go to the cafe. So let's go. couldn't do that. That was not the vibe I was after. Okay, how do people do it? How do they forget the world around them and let the noise fade into the background? I mean, how can I focus on the words when I'm distracted by the song in the background? And how can I focus on the story when the lady next to me is telling me a far better one, or telling her friend that I'm overhearing? Also, I don't even like coffee or matcha or, I'm going to be honest, tea. I know, what kind of Brit am I? I had a hot chocolate. Honestly, doesn't hold a candle to Cafe Nero's. So, it wasn't working out, but obviously, I can't just leave. Firstly, rude. Secondly, I've paid for the drink and I have to go up and ask them to put it in a takeaway cup. Don't think so. Because then everybody will have seen me taking out my work and then quitting 2 minutes later. They'll all know that I'm a quitter and they'll all be judging me. So I sat there for, I don't know, half an hour, whatever was hopefully an acceptable amount of time, and then I left. I got 0 words down. But it's fine. I knew it wasn't going to be successful, which is why I prepared a backup of going to the library. But honestly, after that, I'm reaching my limit of the outside world. I don't think I can take Manchester city centre right now. So, I'm just going to go to my local library. It probably wouldn't make anyone's Pinterest board, but it is still a library, and it will be quieter and maybe actually more productive for me. Okay, take 2. Back in the safety of my own home. That was an adventure and a half. So I did a little better in the library. Got 327 words down, which is great. It was quieter in there. I was able to concentrate for longer. I wouldn't say no to going back there again, but that still means I've got 673 words left. So I think I'm going to take a little break, recover, have something to eat, and then come up with a new strategy. Okay, so I got some inspiration from other writers here on YouTube, and everyone seems to use Flocus. So I'm going to give that a go and do a 25-minute sprint on my own and see how many words I can get through. So you know how sometimes you hit this rich seam of words and it just flows? Yeah, I'm not getting that. I got 212 words. So we're doing it, but it is slow. I completely get why people feel more comfortable calling their first draft 0. It is a mess. And there's so much that I don't know and that I'm figuring out as I go along. And it's certainly not going to plan. But that's okay. I've never done this before. And the idea that I would create a coherent outline that would magically turn into a coherent first draft was unlikely to happen, you know? But I don't want to call it a draft 0 because it would feel like I'm disregarding all the hours of thought and creativity that's going into it. I want to acknowledge and embrace every step of this messy process and celebrate the discovery and the mess along the way. So, this is staying draft one and will remain draft one no matter how awful it gets. So, I've still got over 400 words left, and it's just so hard doing it on my own. I wouldn't mind a little moral support. So, I've just seen that Meredith is doing a live sprint tonight, thank God. If you don't know Meredith, let me introduce you. Meredith is here on YouTube as Meredith E. Phillips and writes Regency Romance, and she is genuinely one of my favourite author tubers. Her plotting is what I aspire to. And she has a Patreon, which I recently became a member of, and she does live writing sprints. Thank you, Meredith. And she has one tonight, and I am definitely going to be attending. I'll leave a link to her YouTube channel and her Patreon down below. And I'm going to get ready to finish my 1,000 words of the day.
Good afternoon, or good evening, potentially. Good morning. How are we doing? It's not even that they travel far. It's just because they're riding in a carriage. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put a timer up, and we are going to work for 25 entire minutes. And hopefully we will all make some good progress.
$1,217 words. I did it. I'm so happy that I achieved it. I made the progress that I wanted. I reached over 5,000 words, and it feels like things are moving forward. The story's moving forward. I'm moving forward, and I'm feeling really good about it. Stuff's happening. I also just had a realization. You know how everyone gives their novel a code name, project this, project that? I called mine Project Waterfall, and it made sense to me at the time, and I liked it. But now that I'm writing it, it doesn't quite sit right anymore. Because the more that I write, the more it feels like I'm not inventing the story. I'm relaying it, as I talked about a bit earlier. So I don't want to call it Project Waterfall anymore. I'm going to call it Kate's Story. Kate is my main character, and it's a quiet, small-scale story about being stuck at work, at home, in yourself, and what it takes to finally move forward. And Kate does not get the recognition she deserves. So I want to acknowledge her rather than hide her behind a code name. So, Kate's Story it is. So my fantasy of being the kind of café, matcha, writing girl didn't quite pan out. But I did the meaningful thing, which is that I wrote, and I hit my 1,000 word goal. And what got me through wasn't the fancy vibes, it was the community. And that is good enough.